Well, hello, good evening. I'm Ned Buberhan, and I had no idea that this was all going to look so flowery. There's one thing that I'd like to talk about and just sort of pose a question to America. Why don't the Greens, that's the Green Party, and the Libertarians, the Libertarian Party, unite in sort of a united third party fashion? Let's not kid ourselves. The two party system is broken, and the only way that we're going to have any sort of real political change in America is if, and only if, we can get some type of new political party in power. We need to get rid of this false dichotomy that is destroying American politics, and let's move forward to just something new, something that's actually benefiting the workers and, the average voters, and just like the people who are, walking the streets every day, not just sitting in, mega mansions over in some other far off corner of the country that are all disconnected from the actual American electorate. Let's combine the Green Party and the Libertarians. How do we do this? Well, one thing that I've always wondered is, why aren't the Greens supporting the fair tax? The fair tax is, of course, the 23% national sales tax with a sort of prebate at the beginning of the month. This was authored by John Linder, who's a congressman from Georgia, a Republican, mind you, and Neil Boortz, the famous radio host. Why should the Greens be behind this, Well, for starters, the Greens, even on their Wikipedia page, advertise market socialism. And sorry, anything related to socialism has no place in American politics. And sorry to the Bernie Sanders crowd, but that's the reality. It's like anything that has this sort of socialist attribution is going to destroy the campaign, because it's sort of like you're not going to pull the middle ground voters, I misspoke, if you're advertising socialism. It's just not going to happen. The Green Party has to abandon all associations with socialism, and the same goes for the Peace and Freedom Party, because that's the next step. The Greens and the Libertarians need to converge on the fair tax. They need to be pushing for a national sales tax that will abolish the income tax, abolish 90% of the IRS, and, will give people a prebate at the beginning of every month. What is a prebate? Well, this is something that is almost like universal basic income, but it is the cost of necessities. It is the cost of necessities for, food, clothing, and shelter materials. A group called the Humanity Party, who made some wacky YouTube videos, has said also you need to include medicine and education, need to be included sort of in this. And if you give people this, it will greatly reduce poverty, which is what the Greens are all about, and what the Libertarians are all about, because they don't want to tax income, first of all. Well, unless you're an anarcho-capitalist, but they don't want to tax income. And, I said anarcho-capitalists would not want to tax anything, hopefully clarifying that. But we don't want to tax income. And the Greens, want everyone to have the basic cost of necessities provided. The way to do that is not through socialism, it's to do it through the capitalist method by changing the tax plan. Capitalism can have a variety of tax plans. Like we don't always have to have just the same old broken income tax system that doesn't cover everyone, because people are getting around it. You can store your money in the Cayman Islands, and Warren Buffett famously says, the whole thing about paying a different tax rate than his secretary. There are ways around that. But what we can't do is hide on the open exchange. Here's a question for the Greens. What is the biggest issue for the Green Party? Well, it's mostly environment, right? Environmental issues and, like deforestation and drilling in the Arctic and drilling offshore and all those things. Well, what is going to be a bigger way to deter that than a 23% national sales tax? It's sort of like, imagine all the costs associated with getting a mining team to Barrow, Alaska, or getting, the drilling team offshore to an oil rig. All the costs taxed at 23%? Are you going to really be doing that? No, you're going to be in the continental U.S. trying to set up the clean electric grid. That's the way to do it. And the Libertarians and the Greens need to converge on this point, because then we can have the two largest third parties in America unite into one. And then it's just going to be like they need to call for all third parties to unite. all third parties in America need to come together and unite into just one massive, anti-democrat, anti-republican coalition, but always being pro their agenda. And the points, again, that I need to say they need to converge upon are really just the elimination of poverty. That's the absolute biggest one. And once again, they can civil libertarianism, because it should be very appealing to Greens. I don't see why it wouldn't be. But they need to converge on the removal of poverty and the great reduction of poverty. Then they need to invite in the Justice Party, invite in the Peace and Freedom Party, invite in the Tax Wall Street Party, invite the Humane Party, the Humanity Party, the Natural Law Party. We have so many we can't even name them all. And if these third parties converge and combine and unify, then what's going to happen is we need to push for 5% of that in the 2020 general election, which I hope one of them will get. Then what we can do is try to go for 15% and get included into the debates in 2024, and then the third party candidate is going to have to try to get 34% of the popular vote and push the Democrats and Republicans out of the presidency. During this whole process, the Green Party needs to be trying to get more people into congressional office. They need to be running more campaigns, and whatever they're doing, it's not working. It's time to do something new. And one of the big ways to do that would be unite with the Libertarians. You need a stronger third party out there, some sort of green libertarian coalition, or whatever you want to call it. But if you do that, then you have a chance to have real political change in America, and you would have a political party talking about eliminating poverty through the capitalist system. I mean, let's just have something that would, at least before elimination, would greatly, greatly reduce poverty and give people, a better chance of getting necessities. Now, the Humanity Party has also brought up a very interesting point where they sort of said, you cannot give people cash with this prebate. If you give people cash, they will spend it on drugs or some other non-productive activity, gambling or something of that nature. They will not spend it on drugs. They will not spend it on the necessities that it is designed for. This could easily be converted into a sort of voucher system. And the way the voucher system would work be very similar to EBT, like the food stamps cards. So every person in America gets a card. And the way that would sort of work is you can use this card for food, and you can actually specialize what food you can buy with it. Like, we have the WIC program, Women, Infants, Children. You can buy cheese and milk and maybe some vegetables, and, maybe even certain cuts of meat, like cold cuts or something like that. So you can have them only buying healthy food so they don't spend it on alcohol or Cheetos or something like that. And then, okay, so healthy food's one. Then they can spend it on clothing, shelter materials like your water bill or things from Home Depot. And the Humanity Party encourages adding in medicine and education. Now, this is all going to be a lot, but the prebate from the fair tax plan has already been authored, and they do have a plan in works, and there is a bill that has been proposed to the United States Congress. This is something that is all in motion, has already been accounted for, and they already have their own system about how to calculate how you would give this to each household. Like, if you have 4 people in your house, you get this much. 5 people, you get a little bit more, and so on, So this is already all taken care of. Or not taken care of, but, it is designed. And it's open to argumentation and debate. So we've covered a lot of basic things, and this is just what all third parties need to do. Maybe you could add a few separate lines to the platform, but we need the Libertarians and the Greens to come together. And the way they come together is through anti-poverty legislation. And, anti